Spanish comedy can be a little hard to understand. So let's learn some Spanish and a little bit about Ecuadorian comedy. And what better way for me to do this than with a skit of the point of view of a teacher.
Con este sueldo y las deudas, creo que me tocó escoger entre pagar el agua, la luz o el internet. Va a estar difícil llegar al baño a oscuras.
From the teacher's point of view, he's already talking about his wage. And it's pretty much about how it's so small that he has to choose between the things that he's actually going to be able to afford. And I find it funny because I'm reading the text on the screen, and it says the luz, agua, internet, so light, water, internet, telephone. And for a second I thought it was tubucos or aluska, but it's actually, the U's are actually A's, so it's tobaccos and Alaska. But for some people who might think, why Alaska and why it's so expensive, see, there's a kind of inside joke over here that when someone tells you, let's go to Alaska, it means, they'll say it in Spanish, vamos a Alaska, o vamos pa Alaska. And it basically means, vamos a las cariñosas. And to interpret that, because cariño is like, you know, affection, but to interpret that, when someone says, a las cariñosas are pretty much the people that you pay to do special services. You know what I mean. I mean, I hope you know what I mean.
Disculpe, profe. ¿Ecuación lleva tilde?
¿Eh? ¿Tilde? Claro que lleva tilde. Ay, no le puse. Pero eso qué importa. Enseño matemáticas, no lenguaje.
¿Ves que te equivocaste en materia? Me debes $10.
Idiota, tú dijiste que era historia, no te debo nada.
Here, as what they're saying, they're talking about the tilde. And in Spanish, I'm pretty sure a lot of people who practice Spanish might have noticed, but there are some words that have a tilde. A tilde, which is like an accent mark. Oh, and also the fact that he makes this remark, and it's kind of something similar that I've seen teachers do, where they say, I teach this and not that. So he's like, I don't teach languages, I don't teach like Spanish, I don't have to know how to write correctly. It's like kind of the way to play it off.
Maldita sea. Uno se mete a maestro porque cree que aquí está el futuro del país y me encuentro con esto. Igual, nada de esto van a usar en...
I mean, the purpose for every teacher, I'm pretty sure, is different, but we do typically want our students to, you know, be the best. We want the best for our students. And basically what he's saying is that he got into being a teacher because he believed that this was the future of the country. And then they're showing him a bunch of students who seem like they're not interested, lazy, or they're just like, they don't care. Except for the one in the middle who seems very much into the class.
El futuro.
No.
¿Qué?
Profe, no vos, que todavía no copiamos.
Pero si tuvieron más de media hora para copiar todo, por Dios. Deberían estar más atentos. Es el último día de clases.
El último día.
Ay, ya.
A lot of the things that the teacher writes on the board, they have to erase it in order to write new things. But I've always found it kind of funny because as teachers, we do leave it up on the board for a long time. But like he's exaggerating, obviously, like 30 minutes. We do leave it on the board long enough where you would assume that a student can copy it down. But you get a lot of students who just can't. I don't know. And I don't know if that's just because they're lazy. Hard to say.
Estos hijos de...
Profe,
¿Qué quieres, Tapia?
no se olvide de revisar el deber que era para hoy.
Casi me olvido. Gracias, señor Tapia.
So basically, whenever it's the last day of class, like students just get really lazy. I'm pretty sure that's the same thing everywhere, but it's like they just stop caring because it's like whatever. If you look at what he threw at him, what he threw at the student, it's a piece of chalk. In Ecuador, there are some places that might have chalkboards, but it's like not a common thing anymore. There are whiteboards, by the way, for anyone who thinks that this is a chalk-based society. Even 7 years ago, there weren't people who were throwing things at their students. Like, I think the worst things in terms of punishments for students is probably like when you take them out of the class. I don't know, maybe you call their parents, but they don't get things thrown at them. But I do think, and this is just personal thought as a teacher, there needs to be some kind of punishment for students that makes them understand that they can't keep doing the things that they do. I'm not saying go to the level of hit them, but like there needs to be noticeable punishment because even in the educational system, it's very hard to fail a student even if they've missed most of their classes, even if they've done like terribly on their tests, just because of the way that the system works.
Siempre puedo contar con usted. Qué bueno que haya alguien que no olvide sus deberes. Si sigue ayudando a sus amigos a ser más responsables.
Okay, so in the background, you can kind of hear the screaming was happening. And it's funny because in classrooms, there's always that student that, you know, tells you when something happens. Like maybe you forgot the homework because as a teacher, you're not perfect. So you might forget that you had to like collect the homework that day. So the good student always like tells you, oh, hey, teacher, don't forget to check the homework. And of course, the classmates aren't gonna like that because there are some who didn't do the homework.
Te va a ir muy bien en la vida. A ver, pasen al frente entregando sus cuadernos. ¿Y el señor Tapia?
Where is
Se
Tapia?
fue porque tuvo una calamidad doméstica o algo así.
Qué pena. Bueno, pase sus cuadernos al frente.
I don't know if you noticed, but the guy's like, his arm is like on the floor, like you can see it. But okay, this is obviously the extreme. Murders in classrooms don't happen unless there's some kind of, gang-related violence. That is a very separate topic. But students going around and, and that happening, not gonna happen.
A ver con qué me salen hoy día. ¿Qué hijo? Aguilera, este es el cuaderno de geografía. ¡Qué bestia!
Ay, cierto.
Te iba a dejar de año porque me caes mal, pero solito te pones el pie.
Typically at the end of a certain period of time, the teacher checks the notebooks to see if they have all the notes because that's what they use to study. And I feel like students, most of the time, when they present a different notebook and they say they forgot and they brought the different one, it was just to be like, oh no, I actually did try to bring it. I had it complete, but then afterwards, I just brought the wrong one. And he's basically saying that he already failed and he was already gonna fail him, but he pretty much played himself.
A ver, Vázquez, te veo confiado. Esto vimos hace 4 años, carajo. Agradece que eres el hijo del rector, porque si no...
Gracias, profe.
Salúdamelo a tu papi. Dile que soy buena gente.
So he was checking his notebook and he had some mistakes and he's like, but we saw this like 4 years ago. So he's basically saying, you should already know this. And it's funny because since he's the child of the principal, he's like, I'm not gonna fail you. Because like at first he was like super like confiado. And when you're confiado, that means you have a lot of like confidence in yourself and what you're doing. So he was like, yeah, I got this. And of course, the child of the principal is gonna be like, if you fail me, my dad. It happens a lot, believe it or not.
Ay, Dios mío, si fuera joven. En mi época no se destapaban tanto. Maldito calentamiento
Okay, no, that's an
global.
exaggeration.
¿Qué les dan de comer a las niñas de ahora? Y además buen estudiante, qué combo. Porque eres menor de edad, carajo.
Okay. Let's wait for this to finish.
Piensa en otra cosa. Piensa en otra cosa. ¿Y el resto? ¿Qué fue de los deberes?
Here it's kind of an exaggeration because obviously if you look at the rest of the students, they're all dressed up in like the uniform. So he's saying if he were younger, si fuera más joven, like, you know what he's trying to say. But you do hear a lot about like how students like, wow, they're like really like, they're big, they're like tall. Like I have one student at the academy where I work at where he's taller than I am and he looks like basketball player height. And a lot of the times one of the jokes you'll hear is like, ¿qué le dan de comer? Or like, what did they feed him? Like, in order to make him grow.
¿Deberes? ¿Qué deberes?
¡Hijo de...! Ahora por vagos les voy a tomar un examen sorpresa.
¡No!
¡Cállate, Flores!
Oiga, profe, ¿de dónde saca tantas tizas?
What I find funny is that he's always targeting the same student. In most classrooms, you'll have that one student who really doesn't pay attention. So they're always the one who the teacher's gonna call out, like because, they weren't paying attention or because like, they're just lazy.
Las pago con mi sueldo, Aguilera. Ahora mismo me sacan una hoja y me resuelven
two
el
of them
ejercicio del pizarrón. Aguilera, deje de hacer trampa.
Pero no me vio.
Pero lo conozco. A ver, levanta.
So he gives them the exercise on the board and he already assumes that this student is cheating because he's just, I guess, the lazy student. I'm assuming that the one that's next to him, like they're both the lazy students. So it's just like he just assumes he's cheating.
Levántase para revisarle. Estos vagos creen que a uno le van a ver la cara. A ver, ¿qué tienes por aquí? Ajá, sándwich. Me quedo con esto. ¿Qué más hay por aquí? Ajá, me quedo con esto también.
Pero ese es mío.
Era. A ver, ¿qué más hay?
Oh,
Ajá,
no.
tu pasaje. Te volviste a la casa a pie. ¿Qué más hay? ¿Condones? Ay, sí, qué optimista.
I think everyone saw what he took away there. So he's checking him because students do tend to hide some kind of like cheat sheet. And he pulled out a burger, which realistically students aren't like carrying around burgers in their pockets, but they do sometimes carry around, their lunch in their backpacks. That can be pretty normal. And then he pulled out a bra, which apparently belonged to the classmate, which, is kind of sus, especially considering what happened next, where he pulled out the condoms. And it's like, he's like, ha, optimistic. He's basically implying that nothing's gonna happen, he's never gonna get any action. But then, how does he have the bra of the other student? Like, I'm trying to think about it, and I'm just assuming that he stole it from the girl, and the girl, like, right there noticed, and it's like, this is just assumptions. It's a skit, obviously, and not realistic, of course. Students are not carrying around other students' bras. So please don't think that that's a thing over here.
¿Y esto qué es? Carajo, y aún así llegas tarde.
Ya ve, profe.
Sé que escondes algo. Ajá. Chuta. En serio no tiene nada. Aguanta. Te jodiste. Escupe, Aguilera. ¿Cómo que no? Qué asco. No me pagan lo suficiente para esto. Lo sabía. Te quedas de año, Aguilera.
In a little bit of reverse order, he said te quedas de año. So it's not like you stay the year. But what he's basically saying is that you're being left behind this year. You're being held back this year. But the funny thing is that where he pulled the cheat sheet from was in his mouth, and it's like, wow, that is a giant cheat sheet, and ew, you pulled it out of his mouth.
Ojalá no sea el conserje. Me tiene las bolas
Oh, yeah,
llenas
you
con
got the
eso de
knock.
que es el éxito. Buenas,
Disculpe, maestro. Yo soy mamá del Juanito.
Juanito.
Juanito Aguilera.
Ah,
Me
the one
enteré
he
que
just
está
tricked.
perdiendo el año por un puntito. Yo quería ver si a lo mejor usted podrá darle una ayudita. Le traje esto.
No, señora, su hijo hizo trampa.
Y también le traje esto.
No,
That's
y
typical.
esto.
señora,
That's
bajo
also
ningún
typical.
concepto su hijo pasará el año conmigo.
Okay, so if you noticed, she's like, oh, my son, he's like, you know, failing the year, like, how can we help him? And parents do come to schools and they do ask that, like, how can we help my child? And that's a good thing about Ecuadorian education, or I guess about Ecuadorians maybe. They pay attention to like what's happening with the students. The bad thing, and from a teacher's perspective, is that a lot of the parents go against the teacher, like the teacher's at fault because their child doesn't want to study. Like, what can I do as a teacher about your kid not wanting to study at home and get good grades in the class? Basically, what's happening here is that she's offering him bribes. And it's funny how she starts off with the chicken, which is unrealistic unless you're living in the countryside, where I have heard that parents come in with like fruits and certain things. And then afterwards, she offers him the bottle of wine. And what you have to understand is that that is a real thing. Parents do come in with bottles of wine, whiskey. Like, they don't show it so blatantly, like, oh, hey, in the middle of a class. But it's like, there have been, you know, talks that sometimes parents will, behind closed doors, like offer some kind of compensation if you help the child. Like, she even pulled out a wad of cash. And those things, you know, they do happen. Just, you're never gonna see it unless they're like, you know, really honest. If they're your friends, they might tell you like, yeah, you know, my child was failing, so I had to like, you know, give something to the teacher, a little Christmas bonus, since we are close to Christmas.
Bueno, quizás podemos arreglarlo de otro modo.
¿Otro modo? No voy a renunciar a mis ideales de cambiar el mundo educando. Pero ya me jubilo y Aguilera es muy tonto como para pasar el año solo. Hay que ayudarlo. Bueno, arreglemos de otro modo.
Perfecto.
Chévere.
Mi amor, ven.
¿Qué? ¿Un trío?
¿Usted quiere dejar de año a mi hijo?
No, 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 no.
Of course. The mother comes in and she's like, maybe we can, you know, fix this in a different way. Arreglar is fix, like to, you know, strike a deal. Basically here, she's offering him like, you know, you don't know what she's offering him, but you assume what she's offering him from the expressions and obviously the way that she's like, you know, standing and everything. First he's like, you know, I have that like my ideals that I want to make a better world and, you know, teach the kids, which is the teacher way. But then afterwards he's like, but I'm about to, you know, retire. Jubilar is retire. So he accepts. And then afterwards she's like, okay. And then she calls her husband and he's like, oh, trio, which you know what he's talking about. And then afterwards, this guy beats him up. And the reality of some parents is I'm pretty sure they do want to beat us as teachers up. But, you know, we're just doing our job. But I feel like the majority of the job for, you know, parents, as parents of their children, is to go home and make sure if the child has homework, make sure they do their homework, make sure they study, and then if they want to have fun, they can go have fun. Because I'm not saying don't let your child have fun. I'm just saying that you have to focus on your responsibility as a parent to teach the child. So that was pretty interesting to get a look at the perspective of a teacher and also to learn some Spanish, which, by the way, I will leave some of these Spanish expressions and words on screen right now so that you can check them out and review them, maybe screenshot them if you need to. And if you want to know more about Ecuadorian culture and listen to a little bit more Spanish to practice, I did recently interview some Ecuadorians to ask them what they think about long-distance relationships. So make sure to check that out next. And as a little bit of a behind-the-scenes bonus for those of you who are still here, this is how I recorded my reaction.